Hello, I'm Ms. Sally Pride. We are gathered here to mourn the loss of a trans ally, our image of J.K. Rowling. To be honest, I don't know what she did for us, other than the books.
J.K. Rowling. This is the 7th and final part of my series, Fight Transphobia with Harry Potter. I strongly recommend you start off with part 1. Not to mention, this video covers spoilers for Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. And we will be discussing some serious topics, including hate crimes, violence against trans people, transphobia, and so much more. So, viewer discretion is advised. Remember what I just said a few moments ago? J.K. Rowling. There are 4 possible responses you may have had to that statement. The first one being, you understand where I'm coming from and agree with the sentiment. The second type of response is from people who don't understand what I was trying to say, but want to learn more. The third type of response is from people who either understand what I was going for and disagree with my sentiment, or people who don't understand and don't wish to learn more. And of course, the fourth one is J.K. Rowling wishing to push legal action against me. If you're case 1 or 2, welcome. If you're in case 3, this video is not for you. Don't waste your time leaving a mean comment, which will just tell the algorithm to see more of my stuff. And if you're J.K. Rowling, let me make something clear. We trusted you, and you betrayed us. You gave trans people like myself escapism and hope in a confusing and painful world that we are in. You showed me an image of womanhood I hoped to achieve. But not only can you not see how we feel, you refuse to. You have expressed that you have been called Voldemort and Dolores Umbridge, which are both true, but I feel like there is a character of yours that best fits who you are. Peter Pettigrew. When you turned your back on the trans community, you turned your back on real women like myself and betrayed a group that was loyal to you. So, from the bottom of my heart, go yourself. I started this series because I was sick and tired of trans people being killed. While J.K. Rowling, at least at the time of writing this video, has not directly condoned violence, her views definitely enable those who do. J.K. Rowling is a public figure. If you don't understand how her views can affect people in horrible ways, you are either being naive or you are lying. Breonna Gay's murder last year was just the beginning of a long series of violence towards trans people that made me feel determined enough to speak up today. The last year has been one of the worst for violence against trans people, including the recent murder of Nex Benedict. While transphobia has always existed, it's become more pronounced recently. This is even before we get into intersectional issues of race, disability, and sexual orientation. This is the final episode of the series Fight Transphobia with Harry Potter. I knew when I started this series things were going to get bad, but I did not know it would get this bad. So what do we do? What do we do when hard times come? This series has covered a lot of ground, mainly by using the Harry Potter series as an allegory for how we can fight transphobia. You know, using her words against her. And a while back, J.K. Rowling said she would be willing to be arrested for misgendering a trans person. There is a difference between social and legal consequences. And before you say we're the snowflakes here, I got 2 words for you. Happy holidays. I mean, think about it. It would be incredibly rude to tell someone who's celebrating Christmas Happy Hanukkah over and over again. Likewise, it would also be disrespectful to tell someone who celebrates Hanukkah Merry Christmas repeatedly against their wishes. Some people even get upset at the very mention of the phrase Happy Holidays, which is really weird and really snowflakey behavior. Now imagine this going after a deep core part of yourself. Imagine that. You're not going to go to prison over this, but it is okay for people to get mad at you. Now, that incident in and of itself is just a small percent of the problems we as trans people face. We face much bigger problems here. This is why the focus of this final episode is dark times, because we are living in dark times. Deathly Hallows starts out with Hermione Granger erasing the memory of her existence from her family, and the Dursleys leaving their home after many, many years. This is symbolic of the lived reality many of us live in. Recently, especially in Florida, there have been numerous anti-trans laws, and it has forced a mass evacuation from the state. People are leaving to protect themselves and their families. And if there were trans wizards out there, I'm sure they do something similar, because it is a matter of life and death for a lot of us. And Voldemort has a meeting with a bunch of Death Eaters, and Snape is there. And Voldemort vents his frustration that he cannot attack Harry Potter because their wands come from the same place. And while in this meeting, Voldemort kills the Hogwarts Muggle Studies professor. She had the belief that Muggles and magical people weren't so different after all. In fact, it's something to be encouraged that if someone is in a relationship with a Muggle, they should be welcome. This is akin to a lot of real life stuff where people attack those they feel uncomfortable with, including notably gender studies professors, who are notably some big advocates of queer liberation, and of course the idea that, as I agree with, people across different genders are not so different after all. Men and women aren't so different after all. And trans people and cis people, we are not that different. We have different struggles, but we share some similar issues. And Harry is saying goodbye to the house where he grew up, which was never really a home. After all, he did live in the closet for 11 years. And the trace is still on Harry. That's pretty much like GPS for magic people. And it's also weird that, like, the family connection, she didn't address the concept of found family as well, because the protection of the Dursleys was there from people attacking Harry because they were family, which, as she said, love is the most powerful, which I agree, love is a powerful form of magic. But it's weird that she took this direction because the Dursleys really did not love Harry. The only way they would be considered family is by blood, and that really doesn't make much sense. I mean, why couldn't Harry have been with the Weasleys? I mean, he's pretty much family with them, so why not? So a bunch of people come to help Harry, and they take Polyjuice Potion to look like him. Which is weird because Harry could have just drank Polyjuice Potion to look like someone else. And Hagrid wanted to take Harry away because, well, he dropped him off as a baby. Which is really weird and puts a weird target on Hagrid. And I mean, wouldn't Snape know that? What if McGonagall was cursed into giving up that information? So it really does not make much sense to do. And of course, Harry gives away that it's him by using the Expelliarmus charm, which is his favorite. Because, come on, Harry! And then Larry the bus driver ends up killing Hedwig, symbolizing the end of Harry's childhood. Which is much more obvious than the drapes are blue, therefore sadness. Just saying. And they have to quiz each other to make sure they are who they say they are, which is really weird and specific. And of course, Voldemort figured out this plan because he's not an idiot. And on the sort of thought of asking people trust questions, I think this is an important concept. I think all friends should do this, just in the event that there's someone going around disguised as you. Make sure you know exactly who they are. Have this question prepared in advance. And then Mad Eye dies. What? There's no joke here. And then Bill and Fleur get married, which their logic is, in hard times we need to celebrate, which I actually do agree with. Sure, they could have planned this out a lot smoother, but generally speaking, it is good to celebrate even in dark times. Don't let them win. Dumbledore left a book for Hermione because he knows she's a really big nerd. Gives Harry the snitch because he knows Harry's a real big jock. And gives the Deluminator to Ron because he knows Ron likes to get lost in the dark sometimes. And then Dumbledore also tried to give them the Sword of Godric Gryffindor, but it was never his to begin with. Sort of like how the British Museum claims they own all the stuff in their museum. And the advice Harry is given is, you can't fight this war alone. He's too strong. No Like, no one can win a war on their own. Which is what I've been saying this whole time. Seriously, transphobes declared a war on us. We cannot win this alone. We need our allies. But this is a war we can win. Also in the book, Harry's under Polyjuice, but not in the movie, which is really weird. And then Harry learns all this stuff about Dumbledore, and he starts to have these really big doubts, because Dumbledore didn't tell him. And then the minister is killed. and the ministry is dissolved, essentially, and taken over. This sounds awfully familiar. And they apparat out with Hermione, and they wipe people's memories because they're better than bad guys because they don't want to kill people. And Harry put his birthday on hold because sometimes birthdays can't really be celebrated at convenient times. And then they go to the Order of the Phoenix headquarters. But that doesn't really make much sense because everyone knows about the Order of the Phoenix by now. And the Hogwarts Express gets raided by Death Eaters, trying to figure out where is Harry. But the thing is, Harry's not there. Sort of like how people nowadays are trying to find trans people at schools, which is wrong and should definitely be stopped. And the school has become very authoritarian, much like Florida. I mean, think about it. All the banned books, can't even mention that you're queer, partners the same gender as you, well, they can't pick you up, that's not allowed. And to take a brief pause here, I just want to say, this year is 2024, and there is an election coming up. Please, register to vote. And they have the idea of nothing to fear if you have nothing to hide, which is because they're literally coming after us. We very much have something to hide, and that's ourselves. Imagine if cis people were went after like this. Like asking people who look like men, hey, do you got a penis in there? That would immediately be a problem. Or asking people who look like women, hey, you got a vagina under there? That's a problem. And not only that, a lot of the laws out there, such as in Florida, are going to cause problems if they haven't done so already. Because it's not based on what it was on your original birth certificate. It's based on your biological sex as it currently stands. And they will test, and there will be people who will learn their intersex. And before you say, oh, it's such a small percentage of the population, it's about 1% of the population, which means that when you look at the total Florida population, lots of people are at risk. And this only gets enforced if you call the cops on someone in a bathroom who you don't think should be in there. So, I'm just saying it would be very interesting if one of these lawmakers got caught in a public bathroom and had to be tested. I'm not encouraging that on anyone, but if it happened, that would be great news. So Harry, Ron, and Hermione try to use Polyjuice Potion to infiltrate the ministry, where they dress up as ministry workers, and then they use a toilet to get in, which is a little weird because, it's a muggle toilet, and how does the person ahead of you know that you're done? And people, of course, are being stopped, which is very familiar in history, and it will most likely be repeated soon. Be warned. And there's a monument saying that Muggles are in their rightful place, being crumbled to death, which has no historical parallels whatsoever. And they see Umbridge again. And Umbridge, she's the second worst, of course, behind J.K. Rowling. Umbridge is now in charge of finding Muggleborns, because it's always the worst people in charge of agencies like this. And the Muggleborns are called liars for having a wand, which, where have I heard that before? And one thing this trio learns very quickly is it's one thing to get a Horcrux. It's a very different thing to actually destroy it, which is actually pretty realistic to our real-world experience. You could easily say that it's very easy to explain transphobia and where it comes from. But it's much more challenging to destroy transphobia. And before people come after me saying it's hateful to hate transphobes, transphobia is based in hate. If I said the same thing about racists, would there be the same problem? This is America, so probably. But this is the focus of the video. In past installments, I talked about what transphobia is. But now we're going to actually take on how to actually fight it. Sort of a misleading series if you think about it. And the locket which they took from Umbridge, which is a Horcrux, is making Ron go a little crazy, in even telling Harry that he has no family. Yes, he does. And it's you, Ron. Which is also fitting because families typically fight. And Ron leaves. Now, there's a bit of a controversial scene in the movie that isn't in the book. And that's, of course, the dance scene where Harry and Hermione dance. And it's not a romantic dance, it's just sort of a dance of yeah, things are tough, but we're getting through it. Which I think is important for us all to realize. Because, well, I can get pretty frustrated too. And I lose hope a lot. Despite the fact that it looks like I keep it all together, I lose hope a lot. And I want to introduce right now a special guest for this series. Her name is Justine. You can follow her at the link on the screen. So, Justine, how do you keep hope when there's so much transphobia in the world?
Good evening, my beautiful badasses. I hope that you've had a lovely, lovely day. Let's talk. Particularly, let's talk about maintaining hope in the face of transphobia. Now, there's no denying that right now we're facing a lot of hate, a lot of transphobia, a lot of misinformation. And when we hear about all the laws, we hear about, our brothers, sisters, nibblings, people like Next Benedict, Kitty Monroe. It's very easy to lose hope. But one thing I want to remind you. I believe it was in The Prisoner of Azkaban that Albus Dumbledore says, happiness can be found even in the darkest of times if we only remember to turn on the light. So in the face of all this, what's the light? How do we find that hope? How do we maintain it? Well, I can't say this one thing is what we need to do. But me personally, I look back at everything we've been through over the years. I look back to the pioneers, people like Marsha Johnson, who said enough is enough and gave us the pride we know today. I look back across history and see that gender-expansive individuals have always existed. And in all that time, we've had people that want to get rid of us. And they haven't succeeded. We have always existed. And we always will. So don't let the external forces get to you. Find your light. Whether that be looking at the past, looking to pillars of our community nowadays, or even looking inside yourself to find that joy in knowing who you are. Because I'm proud of who I am. And I hope you are too. I hope you're proud of who you are. But find your light. And don't let the darkness take it out. Remember, keep on smiling, my badasses. Much love.
Thank you, Justine. That was really, really impactful. I loved it. She's a dear friend of mine, and I really appreciate it if you followed her on TikTok. Thank you. And then there's the Deathly Hallows symbol in the book Dumbledore gave her, which is a little weird if you ask me. It's like Dumbledore making her go on a puzzle because she likes puzzles. And then Harry and Hermione go to Godric's Hollow. In the book, they drink Polyjuice potions, so they're not recognized. But Harry has a different perspective. He feels like it's very important that they be there as themselves, which in a trans context is a really powerful message. That if you're in an unsafe environment, there is still power in being yourself. I know this far too well. I'm not wearing that male disguise anymore. But inevitably, they are attacked, and they're able to escape. And Ron then finds the Sword of Godric Gryffindor and destroys the lock. And then they go and visit the Lovegoods to ask some more questions about the Deathly Hallows. And, well, they get their answers, but they're summoned and attacked. Because they took Luna to get Harry. And honestly, I get it. He's a pretty desperate parent. This makes sense. And believe it or not, this is actually happening. In Florida, children are being taken away from their families on the mere suspicion of being trans. What the f*** you, Florida? F*** you, Ron DeSantis. You can't do this. This is evil and wrong. But frankly, it doesn't seem like you give a You don't. Because you have no soul, Ron DeSantis. You have no soul. And then Voldemort gains the Elder Wand, which is a really scary prospect because it's supposed to be the most powerful wand in the world. But remember, the wand chooses the wizard. So the trio is captured and they ask Draco to confirm, is this Harry Potter? But he can't do it. Not only is it difficult to do, but morally he just can't. That's the thing about Draco. He has an evil side, but he's not an evil person at heart. And then Dobby saves the day because, well, he's amazing, but he dies in the end. Before you think I'm being hyperbolic about this, remember, the Republican Party has called for the eradication of transgender people. This is not a joke. This is serious. Our lives are on the line. And with Snape in charge of Hogwarts, all the safe spaces are gone. And you might see safe spaces a joke, but they're not. They're very important to a lot of us. Safe spaces are only a joke if you don't need one. If you experience daily harassment, you need a safe space. And if you don't experience daily harassment, well then, you don't know what it's like. And you need to get more empathy and compassion. And Griphook, who first showed Harry Gringotts, is back trying to get a goblet from Bellatrix Lestrange's locker. But the sword is always presented at a time of need, and it's not there anymore. And the goblin wants a sword, so he's given it. Then again, it just disappears because it's not his to begin with. And through a long, convoluted explanation here, Dumbledore, who had the Elder Wand, was given to Draco, and then it was given to Harry for complicated reasons. But Voldemort is trying to use the wand, but it can't be done because he's not the wielder of it. Which is sort of like gender. You can't do it if it's not who you are. And then a bunch of convoluted stuff happens and they meet Dumbledore's brother, who he never mentioned, Aberforth. And they decide to go back to Hogwarts to fight. And one of the big changes there is they're using the Crucia's Curse on first years, which is really horrifying and not too far from reality when you think about how trans people are often tortured in schools. And there's the line, how dare you stand where he stood. This isn't just directed at Snape, it's directed at J.K. Rowling, I think. Especially considering Daniel Radcliffe is an ally, huge one to us. Speaks volumes. How dare you stand where she stood. Where J.K. Rowling is standing where she once was as a trans ally. But not anymore. How dare you, J.K. Rowling? How dare you? And then there's the McGonagall and Snape fight, which is epic. And McGonagall even expresses how she missed Harry, which I think is a powerful statement that, like, everyone holds value in this society, trans people in particular. And I think it would be important if someday we had a day without trans people to really show that off, where we stay silent for one day and see how it goes. See the void lost out there. And people don't want to say the word Voldemort because there's power in summoning behind it. But let's say what it is. Transphobes are bad people. They simply are. If you're watching this and you're a transphobe, you are a bad person. And I'm not talking about people who are legitimately trying to do better. I'm talking about people who don't give a shit and will never learn. Because, well, they don't give a shit. Fuck you. And then Neville shows off that he is a badass. Everyone named Longbottom has to be a badass. And many died, which is also true in our case. Transphobes may call this a culture war, but this is a real war. There's the so-called war on Christianity that Republicans like to go on and on about. But imagine if there was an actual discussion about war on trans people. I mean, we are far more harmed in society than Christians are. Our lives are on the line. Also, Snape is killed, although he's also an incel. To mention that Snape was there for Harry's mom when she was bullied by her sister. So Snape has an empathetic side, but he's really an asshole, especially in the books. And then, of course, Voldemort threatens the lives of every single person if Harry isn't turned over, which is how war works. And unfortunately, I don't think we're that far off from transphobes actually doing it. It's getting bad. Then there's a big fight, and ultimately Voldemort is defeated. Now, would this pan out in real life? Is there a simple way transphobia is defeated? No. It's one battle at a time. Some people can't be convinced because they have no heart. but some can't. It's all about finding what matters to people, which ultimately, for a lot of us, is love. Love. Loving someone who is trans can make all the difference. And then there are people who have no love. But will they ever get it? Probably not. Yeah, this is the final episode. I encourage you all to speak up. Never go down without a fight. Run for office if you are able to. Do it. Don't be silent. Create your own social media. Speak up. Do whatever you can. Make sure people see trans people as people. And if you're a cis person who wants to be a better ally, you can do the same. Speak up. Do the right thing. And stand up when you hear transphobia. Because it's not going to go away easily. J.K. Rowling failed us because she forgot about love. She forgot about loving other human beings. She turned to hate. And even if she's not calling for direct violence, by dehumanizing us, she takes those who are predisposed to violence and makes it even more extreme against us. Help will always be given to those who deserve it, is what Dumbledore said. And I think that's a powerful sentiment. We deserve help. And I hope in time that is the reality this world is shaped to. Pity those without love, transphobes. And even if it's all in your head, why does that make it any less real? Even someone like Neville Longbottom can make a difference. So why not you? And let the transphobes, much like the Malfoys, flee like the cowards they are. Thank you, everyone. This was How to Fight Transphobia with Harry Potter, and that's a wrap.